No questions. I'll go to my prepared ones. Then maybe these will prompt questions. I thought the one that was probably the most general was, what are the most important concepts in the book? And to me, obviously there's a lot of concepts, and there's several in the innovation area that I think are important, that aren't necessarily directly related to assessing a business model. But the first one to me, and I know a lot of people on the call are business owners, is the business model as the foundation of a strong and profitable business. And as someone who's been a business owner his whole life, I think that we are all guilty of focusing on that I'm going to work hard, and hard work equals great results, and kind of forgetting that when we started our business, we built it upon the foundation of a strong business model, and then 10 years later, that model may or may not be as strong as the day that we started it. And I know that I'll speak for myself in that I have been guilty of working too hard on things in the business that were just the ongoing work and not necessarily the model. And what I needed to do was work less hard on that and harder on business model innovation. And what it resulted was a whole bunch of hard work for not as much profit as I should have made. And I wouldn't mind a do-over. And I'm guessing that some of you might feel the same way. You ever felt that way, where you're working too hard for what you're getting?
Still doing that.
We're doing feel that way today.
Yes, but I know that it needs to change. I'm just trying to figure out how. So this is healthy.
Well, and in fact, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a couple of ideas on the next one, because I think that is very typical in mid-size and small business. Is I feel that the effort of work that I am putting into the business is not commensurate with the rewards, both financial and otherwise, that I am getting into the business. I don't feel like I can take a solid 2 weeks of vacation without stress. I remember the first time that happened to me. I started in business very young. I was 22 when I started, and I was probably 30 before I could take a solid week of vacation and not have this itchy feeling about, I wonder, what's going wrong. But eventually you realize that the building's not burning down. There's not much you can do from Arizona when your business is in Indiana. So, but very common. The other concept that I think is important in the business is certainly the business model wheel, and the breaking down of the business model into 8 areas. And what that allows us to do is, typically business models have been, let's jot down on the back of the napkin, we're gonna sell widgets for money. Well, yes, that's a little bit of the business model, but having the ability to break it into those 8 components, particularly the continuity ones that people really don't talk about, and I had a lot of debate with the very bright Columbia professor that was the technical editor on the book, and Rita would say, "Oh no, continuity really doesn't have as much to do with the business model." And technically, she's right that the pet rock was a really great business model. It made a whole bunch of money. The problem was it went away. Same thing with Crocs or Beanie Babies or anything that doesn't sustain. You may make a lot of money with it, but most of the people that I work with are business owners. And continuity and making it last is extremely important to them, and that's why we put that in the book, is making sure that not only do you make a model that works today, but a model that works tomorrow, and that's where Section 8, the graceful exit, comes in. Because when you're thinking about how to structure your business model, you also want to make it that you can have a graceful exit. And I define a graceful exit as 2 ways. And one is that someone comes in and plops a big stack of money in front of you, and you never need to work again, and that is graceful exit number 1. And that's what most people envision and are working for, and 5 or 10% of them are going to get that. The other 90% are going to be very much like I was with my first business, and I wish I could say I was smart enough, but it really was just lucky enough to start young. And I started the business while I was in law school because I realized I didn't want to be a lawyer, so I was hedging my bets. I started a business, and I was lucky it went well. But then all of a sudden, and it was a Meineke discount muffler. I owned several franchises of Meineke. And so here I find myself with a law degree, and I passed the bar, but I'm not practicing law. And now it was kind of fun hobby in law school, but now I'm wearing my polyester uniform, schlop, and mufflers, and I thought, this isn't everything that I thought it would be. how do I turn this into a real business, or because we were making good money, but it wasn't a real business. We were still, we were more shopkeepers than business owners, and making pretty good money doing it, but I knew it wasn't what I wanted. And so you go, well, let's either get this working right or let's sell it. And we tried to get it to run well without us showing up 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. And, my 25-year-old partner and I couldn't figure it out. We couldn't get it to work. So we just sold it, and we sold it for a whopping 3 times earnings, which we would have been better off just to keep it and do something else. And we certainly got a big pile of money for a 25-year-old, but we couldn't retire on it, so we started another business. Like you do. But that's how most businesses get exited, for not enough money to retire on, and 3 times earnings is a lousy reward, and that leads to what I call the CEO Emeritus. And I love the CEO Emeritus plan. I teach a course that I lovingly call Never Sell Your Business, or alternatively titled Selling Your Business is for Suckers. Because at 2% interest rate, what are you going to do with that big pile of money anyway? And the answer is, you're going to be older, you're going to be more conservative, you're not going to want to work for your money, and so you're going to be like my parents who need to be very conservative, and now you're buying 2 or 3% bonds with your $2, $3, $4, $5 million, and you still don't have enough money to live on. So the Emeritus plan, what that does is, A, we need to get your business running like a Swiss watch without you present, that you are an additional resource that makes your business better, not a vital resource where the business falls apart if you're not there every day. And number 2, we get your business making good enough money to support the lifestyle in which you have become accustomed to and deserve without your presence there. And now you can choose to either sit back and clip those coupons provided by your business, which you have justly earned via your hard work and smarts, or you can sell it. And I promise, if you work the Emeritus plan, you'll sell your business for a lot more money than the way that most people do it. Because if you've got a business that I don't need to be there and provides a good living, that's a very valuable business that lots of people will want to buy. If you have a business like my Meinekes were, there's a very limited number of people that want to be in the muffler business. And so we were forced to get a very mediocre price for that business because we didn't have it running well without our daily input. They needed a smart, talented person there to make the good money. It didn't make very good money if we weren't there. I remember joking with my wife. My wife asked me, here I am 25 years old. My wife says, can't you take a Saturday off? And I remember exactly what I said. I said, it cost me $1,000 to take the day off. And you tell me how many 25-year-olds will take a day off for $1,000. It was a business where you made all your money on Saturday. And if I wasn't there, they didn't sell as much, and it cost $1,000, in my opinion, to not be there. And so I worked 6 days a week, 70 hours, and eventually it burned me out, and I got into a different business. Last piece of the important concepts in the book, to me, is the importance of ongoing business model innovation. And then I want to talk, the next question has to do with the insurance business, which is one of those innovation topics. But I think that sitting down, just like we do a strategic plan every so often, ideally yearly, or you redo your business plan, that part of that planning that we business owners need to do more often and don't should be what business model innovation should I do? So let me give you something that's not in the book that is a question I have been asking my clients this month that I kind of like. And that is, if I gave you this set of circumstances, and that is I give you a big pile of money, let's call it $1 million, $2 million, $500,000, whatever would get you in a new business similar to the business that you're in. And you don't have the business that you have anymore. So you're now out of the business that you are currently in, but you have a great big pile of money to start or buy a business that is similar. It doesn't need to be in the same business, but it needs to be in the same industry, the same broad category. What business would you start today if you were not encumbered with the business that you have? Can you think of an answer?
No.
Nothing? Is that what you said?
Maintenance is what my husband's sitting here too.
Oh, maintenance?
He said, which is lawn maintenance. Just
well,
lawn maintenance.
I think that's kind of where you start your innovation. Because usually, I mean, we consultants have these tricks, and questions like this are our tricks. Because what happens is, if I ask you really quickly and I wipe the slate clean, a lot of times people have an answer, and what's in that answer is usually the best part of their existing business or something close. I asked a client in the asphalt business, he does non-highway, mostly like Walmart parking lot type stuff, and property maintenance stuff, rather than roads. Not a lot of road work. And I asked him the same question, and in a tenth of a second, he said, "Oh, I'd get into the grading business." And I said, "Really? Oh, well, why is that?" And he goes, "Well, I'm doing $13 million, and there's some people that started in that business. They're doing a third to a half the volume that I'm doing, and they're netting well over $1 million. And I'm here slogging it out for this low-margin stuff in this mature paving business." And so, of course, the next question is okay, well, how unrelated is that? Well, they're subs of mine. These are subcontractors that I use. And you go, well, what is it that they have that you don't have? Well, they have a grader. Well, how much does that cost? How much do you use it? So we start talking about innovating his model to basically move into a potentially more profitable niche. And by the end of dinner, this is over dinner, by the end of dinner, we're sitting here talking about buying a $400,000 machine because it's pretty clear we use it enough to maybe justify buying it. Really the only hurdle that he had was the potential crossover competition. So I would encourage you to ask yourself that question and then see, and you got to be really open and let the ideas flow. Don't, I call it yeah-butting. Don't yeah-but and say, I can't because. That's going to stop that free flow of ideas, and just, jot them down and then see where that leads. And maybe the answer to your maintenance comment lies in the concept in the book that I call gasoline, cigarettes, and soda. In the lawn care, it's the lawn care business?
Yeah.
Is that the business? So are you familiar with the concept gasoline, cigarettes, and soda?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So your gas is typically the way that you get customers, but you might not make a lot of money on it. You're kind of stuck doing it. Okay? So in your business, what's the gas?
And we have a dual piece of the business. We have the lawn maintenance part, which is a small portion of the business, and it is then categorized. The gas is the cutting the grass. The other part is the add-on to that, the pine needles, the annuals, the extra shrubs, all the other stuff they want done. On the other side of the business, the contracting side, which unfortunately is the bigger side of the business right now, there is no gas, soda, candy, I don't remember the last one, but the gas, soda thing. It's the same thing, so that you don't have a good and bad section. It's just all mediocre. If that makes any sense.
Well, okay. So therein lies problem number one, which is, I always call the soda the high-margin stuff. Okay?
Right.
And to me, the easy way to know if it's gas or not is it's what people ask what the price is.
Right.
Tell me how much you paid for your last Snickers bar or tube of chapstick that you bought at a gas station. You can't tell me, but you know how much you paid for the gas.
Oh, yeah, because you're paying attention.
And that's the point, is you're paying attention to the price of gas. And so it's what the customer's asking, and I don't know if you do HOA work. I've got a longtime client that's an HOA manager. And so in that business, it's $3 per house per month is the maintenance fee. Is that the type of pricing that you have to do?
It's similar, yes.
And so that's what they're asking about, right? Well, how much per house, or how much per acre, or how much per whatever. And if you're $1,750 and I'm $1,740, I'm better than you are.
Right.
And so that's your gas. It's whatever they're highly price sensitive about.
Correct. But then once you get the lawn maintenance and you're doing the maintenance, if they need pine needles, they're not going to go stop that price.
Yeah, no one ever asks you how much to remove pine needles.
Right.
Yeah, well, so by definition, that's not gas. And so to me, there's a couple of things there. Number one, everything can't be gas. I always say customers vote with their wallet, not their mouth. Sure, they'll beat you up on price. The question is, are they going to leave over it? And, your first the objective of a business is not to mow yards. The objective of a business is to make money.
Right.
And at some point, you got to make money.
The other aspect of all that.
And so what I'm hearing on the commercial side, and certainly, these sophisticated buyers make it tougher. I think it's easier to make money on the consumer side because it's my money. Fine, it's my house. I want it to look nice. I can vote to spend more money. I'm the final decision maker. In a committee decision or a business decision, it's a little bit trickier. But it sounds like you don't have any soda on the commercial side that is your, gosh, I love it when they buy that.
No, you really don't.
Yeah, and so I think you gotta find it. You gotta invent it. You gotta make it.
Okay.
And that leads actually to one of the other questions that somebody typed in, which is, can everybody get in the insurance business? And so I threw out 3 innovation techniques at the end of the book, and this one is kind of a proprietary one that I came up with several years ago called Everyone Should Be in the Insurance Business. And the concept is that in every business situation, there is, in fact, risk, and that someone takes that risk. And because we have been taught risk is bad, we have pushed as much risk onto customers as possible without really analyzing it. And that we push all these risks on customers, and our customers are forced to take risks for the privilege of doing business with us. And that we need to open our minds to playing the insurance company, and all insurance is accepting risk in exchange for money. And so we ask ourselves, the way that this works is you go, what risk do I ask my customers to take? For instance, I really need my lawn mowed today. The grass is embarrassingly long, and my superintendent is coming or whatever. Are they going to mow if it rains? Or it's going to rain in the afternoon. Are they going to get it done before the rain? Who bears that risk, you or the customer? And I'm guessing on that one it's the customer. That it's their problem if it rains, not your problem. Right? You have pushed the risk of rain onto the customer, and that may or may not be a good decision. I'm not assessing whether that's a great idea or a terrible idea, but I'm saying I'll bet you that if you gave the customer the option of, I will take the risk if it rains, they would like that. Now the next question is, will they pay for that and how much? So if you accepted the risk of weather, that would be accepting risk. And now you need to do it in exchange for money. And sometimes we want to do that, and sometimes we don't. There's a few factors. Factor number 1 is, what is the client willing to pay to get rid of that risk? And if the answer is not much, then we probably don't want to accept the risk. If they will pay a reasonable amount, that's great, but there has to be another factor, and that is, I want you to have superior knowledge to the customer. So, for instance, if I don't know if you do any flat rate work, but flat rate work is a common example of accepting risk in exchange for money because someone bears the risk of how long it will take. Well, typically the contractor has a much better idea of how long it will take than the customer perceives that it will take, especially in some trickier things like HVAC or plumbing. I have no idea whether that furnace fix should take 6 hours or 6 minutes because I don't know how to fix a furnace. And so the contractor has greatly superior knowledge to me in my furnace example, which is even more of an indication that the furnace company should be figuring out how to get that risk removed from me because my perception of the risk is much greater than the actual risk is, and the contractor is in a position to know that. So we want to align those two. We want to align risk that the customer wants to get rid of, that we have superior knowledge, and that they'll pay us enough that we can make a nice profit. And when you can do that, you can't always do it, but almost all businesses, everybody should try. That was the real question is, can everybody get in the insurance business? Yes is the answer, because everybody's customers are forced to take risks that they don't want to take. Number 2, just sometimes I've had people get confused and they go, well, I don't want to take that risk. And the reason is it's a bad risk to take. I'm not suggesting to take bad risks. I'm saying take profitable risks and enjoy taking them because they're highly profitable. Extended warranty. Here's an interesting story. So I sell these 3 Meineke's back in 1991. I sell these 3 Meineke's, and we had done between our 3 stores well over 10,000 mufflers that we gave an extended warranty on. And during the time that we owned these stores, our primary supplier, Merrimont, who was their big competitor to, say, Monroe, went to a program where we self-insured our lifetime mufflers because it got to be stupid to send in a muffler that was worth $11, back to cutting a piece of plate off with a torch and mailing it back to Tennessee just to get your $11 back. And so they offered us a fairly significant discount to self-insure these. So we took it because it was a very wise business decision. So we took this self-insured. So we had self-insured 10,000 mufflers. How much do you think I had to compensate the buyers for those 10,000 extended warranties that we offered? Any guesses?
25%. 25%.
$0.00.
Wow.
And you know why? Because we made money every time a car rolled in with one of those warranties. Well, number one, this was a great example of accepting risk in exchange for money. When you bought your muffler, you were buying a $12 muffler for probably $40, $50, and then, of course, you had clamps and installation. And clamps, boy, those were great. 30 cents for a clamp, we sold them for $2.50. So the cost, typical cost on an exhaust job was a 25% cost of goods, sometimes 20. But let's just call it 25%. Well, I know that, and you don't. You just know it cost $100. What I know is that the parts only cost $25. And I'm only warranting the muffler. I'm not warranting the clamps. I'm not warranting the hangers. I'm not warranting the pipes. I'm not warranting the brakes I'm going to look at while you're on there. And cars break. So we almost never had a warranty job where we honored all of our warranties. That wasn't the point. But there was always other work that you needed, and you always made money on a warranty job. And I was able to convey that to the buyers of saying these warranties are an asset, not a liability. And, yeah, you're going to give them a free $12 muffler, and then you're going to say thanks for bringing it back. But that's a good example of accepting risk in exchange for money, and we actually did it twice because we got an 8% discount on every single thing that we bought, mufflers, pipes, clamps, in exchange for accepting those warranties and eating probably $112 mufflers a year, and our discount on that 8% was probably $50,000.
Cool.
So, yeah, even as a little whippersnapper, I knew that accepting that risk was a wise decision. I mean, we ran the math, and it was not that complicated.
Right. I mean, even if you have people that came in and simply replaced the muffler and did nothing else, that's one in very few.
Yeah, and you just took care of it. I mean, you take care of your customers just like you do. And, yeah, occasionally you had one, and it's like, well, that was not fun. And they always came in on a Saturday when you're swamped, too. You're going, oh, great, I just turned away a $300 job to take care of this guy's free muffler. Can't you come back on Tuesday when we're dead? That was a risk we couldn't get rid of there, right? So, yeah, I love, even in your specific case, I think that in the case of the commercial people, I think that finding a way to get into the insurance business is one potential option of adding a high-margin item. But, the other thing that I see, I just said this to a client this month, is many times our instinct in business is I need to sell more gas. And that's almost always the wrong answer. You don't need to sell more gas. It's lousy margin. Yes, go acquire a new customer with gas. But you don't need to sell more low-margin stuff that is just trading dollars. What you need is more high-margin sales, not more low-margin sales. I'll take both, but I don't want just more gas sales. What's the point?
Right.
All right, so here was the other question that somebody emailed to me earlier. If I only read one chapter in the book, which one? Now, my answer is going to be a little bit tricky here. My favorite chapter in the book is chapter 13. Old Lucky 13, which is the analyzing your business model based upon the wheel, breaking it down. And I love using the wheel to really brainstorm in a segmented fashion about the 8 areas of a business model, going to the marketability and saying, okay, how is my industry? How is my niche? Can I move into a new niche? How's our customer segment? Are we selling to the right customers? I mean, sometimes, if you look at the way that an Aaron's Rents sells TVs versus the way that a Walmart or a Best Buy sells TVs, they both are selling TVs, but they sell to a very different customer segment. And because of that, they do it in a very different fashion. And their monetization strategy is different, and the way that they charge people. And Aaron's Rents, I don't have a ton of background on their business model, but I'm guessing that their business model really isn't about selling TVs or computers or furniture. That effectively they're a modified finance company that happens to get the finance transaction completed by getting you to take a couch home. Whereas Best Buy clearly is in the TV selling business.
Mm-hmm.
And the associated products, but and we'll forget their woes. They did Best Buy and Circuit City did wonderfully well on those extended warranties because they were accepting risk in exchange for money. It clearly was insurance, but eventually they stopped selling so well because people realized that getting a 2-year-old TV really wasn't all that valuable. I'll just self-insure. I mean, that's what happened. People started to self-insure their TV because they knew that their next one would be twice as good for half as much. So what questions do people on the call have? Everybody else.
I have a question, but I talked a lot, so I was going to let somebody else talk if they need to.
You know what? They'll speak up if they need to. I'm not a bashful guy, so they either needed to send them to me ahead of time or speak up.
We've been running this business for 5 years now, and clearly are working way too hard for not enough reward, which is what you talked about at the very beginning of the call. And I'll do another testimonial to what you said. Working really hard doesn't get you where you want to be. You need to work smart. And I've tried to figure out the best ways to do that. And I think my biggest, and it's not really a pointed question that you can just answer in a few sentences, but I find it hard to look at what we're doing objectively and figure out how to change things to make them better. Like, look at it as a business model and asking the questions. I find it hard to step back and look at it really objectively.
Kudos for the observation. It has nothing to do with you. It's the whole, the doctor shouldn't operate on their own family, and a lawyer that has himself for a client has a fool for a client, or whatever the old saying is. It's the same thing. You need to be able to run your business objectively, and it's incredibly subjective subject. And that's a human condition, not your condition. I have the same problem. So let me see if I can trick it out of you here. Okay. Let's pretend that I'm a guru, all right? And you invite me into your business, and we spend the morning, and you tell me everything good, everything bad, your hopes, your dreams, what you spend your day doing. You give me enough background to be dangerous. And we grab some lunch, we come back to the business, and we say, I'm going to spend the next hour giving you a laundry list of everything that I would do if I owned this business. And you go, oh, well, forget that, Jim. Tell you what, why don't you just take over for me for a year? And I go, sure, let's do it. I'm going to take over your business for the next year. You with me so far?
Yep.
So now I'm running your business, and you're not running your business. In the first month, name 5 things that I do.
Wow.
Don't think. Go fast.
I wouldn't know where to start. Again, I don't know where to start. I guess that's my biggest problem.
Would I keep all your people?
I would think you would keep most everybody.
All right, so the people that I wouldn't keep, don't say names out loud. We're recording. Think about the people that I might get rid of. Think about the people that I might add What would their jobs be? Who would they be? What would I do? What would I do about competition? How about pricing? Would I leave your pricing alone?
No, raise it.
Okay, so I'd raise your pricing. How about sales force? Describe your sales force.
We have two different salespeople, one for the maintenance sales, one for the construction sales.
All right. What would I do with them?
Keep them.
Would I give them some giant incentive? Would I spiff them? Would I give them a pep talk? Would I take them on a retreat? Would I stick a boot in their butt? What would I do?
Give them some incentive, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
And that boot might not hurt.
Everybody always typical business owner. They always love the boot.
Yeah.
Yeah, enough of this crap.
We have good salespeople, but the boot never hurts.
I'm with you. Okay, but I certainly wouldn't just leave them alone and say keep doing what you're doing.
No, I don't think so. Okay.
What about services? Would I add some services, subtract some services?
Yes.
Which one?
Well, I can only speak for my industry, so I would add some type of irrigation services, repairs, startups, shutdowns, that type of thing.
Yeah, I get frustrated how much I pay for that stuff. I'll tell you what, you should open up here. My gosh, if you opened up an irrigation company here that didn't, have horns and drool on themselves, you'd make a killing.
How's the weather there? No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, the weather stinks compared to yours. That's why you live there, not here. Weather's lousy.
Oh, okay.
Every day. Okay, that's a pretty long list we came up with, though.
I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to say, replace myself with somebody else.
Yeah, well, the point is, I usually do it with Jack Welch or Meg Whitman or, some super CEO, but you're on the phone with me, so I get to take that role. But the point is, I say, well, so if Jack Welch took over your company, what's the first 5 things he would do? And all of a sudden everybody goes, boom, 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 boom. And I go, why don't you do that?
Yeah. See, and
so you should look at that list and see what on there makes sense. So, like on the irrigation front, do you buy a competitor? Do you start something from scratch? Do you partner?
No, you apply it to your existing customers. And
well, right, but do we go out and do we go to Toro and say, hey, we want to take on that line and add it ourselves? Do we go buy an irrigation company? Do we form a strategic partnership with somebody that's already doing it?
All right. Okay.
Okay, I got your point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying there might even be a fourth option, but those are the 3 easy ones. That's my job. I always take the easy ones and then make you answer the others.
Okay.
That's what I do. But so there's a good list. Believe me, raising prices is terribly scary. For me too. But there's a great exercise that I do that actually has a spreadsheet that shows, especially basically the effect of raising prices in a low margin business is very dramatic. If I have a client, I won't tell you what they do, but they make a chemical product. They have 92% margin. Sometimes I feel like they need to lower prices. I wonder how much business we're not getting just because, geez, we could almost cut the price of this in half and, maybe usage would double.
Right.
But if you're in a 12% margin business, let me assure you, raising prices 5% makes a huge difference.
Yes, you're correct.
In your profits.
You're correct.
So, sometimes, really the way I think you analyze raising prices, believe it or not, is by figuring out how much less business you can do and make the same money and decide whether you'll lose that much business or not. That's the only sane way to do it. Because I've had people do it and they go, oh my gosh, I'd have to lose 30% of my business in order for it not to make the same amount of money. You go, there's no way I'm going to lose 30% of my business. I'm going to lose 10, and it's all the pain in the butt customers who are cheap. And then in that case, the decision's easy.
That's a good analysis. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Yeah, I can't ever do it because you start going, you work so hard to get a customer. I have customers too. You work hard to get a customer, and then you start gambling whether you're going to lose the customer over raising prices, and inherently go, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, who would blame you?
I'd like to touch on another subject, but if anybody else has questions, I'd like for them to speak if they want.
All right, we'll tell you what, we'll pause for 5 seconds, see if anybody has a question. That's okay. A lot of times people like to be a fly on the wall and listen, so go fire away. We're doing good. We're having good discussion, so fire away.
You talked about insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And my insurance, what I would like to do on our maintenance end of it is get new customers and supply them the insurance and, of course, raise my prices for the maintenance contract. And if anything dies, like a tree, shrub, whatever, we replace it at no cost to them.
It's like a lifetime warranty bush.
Right, but my prices would have to go up to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't want to be offering a lifetime warranted, shrub for the same price as my I hope it lives shrub.
I can't do a lifetime warranty because a tree or a shrub does have a lifetime just like a human being.
Well, it would be in the annual contract.
Yeah, being within the annual contract, if you choose to renew it again,
then we would talk about renewing that insurance.
We would talk about renewing that insurance, correct?
Well, the thing is, I always joke about the asterisk is your best friend. Yeah, well, what does lifetime warranty? Well, what does lifetime mean? I mean, for instance, to me, one of the things that's very interesting about if you're going to do, there's a great book by a Harvard professor, and it's an older book, but I think it's called Extreme Guarantees. If you send me an email, I'll be happy to give you the exact title. But terrific book that a lot of the initial genesis of the ideas of this insurance thing really came from this book, and he has great examples about extreme guarantees. And one of the points that I took away from the book that's kind of an extrapolation is that extreme means extreme. And the marketing power of, hey, most bushes only last for 1 year, but we're going to warranty ours for 3 or 4. Something that's a very good deal doesn't have the kick that lifetime does. And you get to define what lifetime means. So, for instance, if you stop being a customer, it's over. That was one of the tricks in the car business. It's a lifetime warranty, but it's not transferable.
That's correct.
As long as you own the car. You've heard that, right? As long as you own the car. Well, you know what? You don't think that the car business knows that the average car is kept for 6 years?
Yeah.
I don't know how many owners an average car has, but I know it's more. But it's more than one usually. So to me, you go with a lifetime warranty on that, and if I stay with you for 13 years as a loyal customer and my bush goes, go give me another bush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for being a customer that long, Jim.
Yeah, and then the secondary thing, now that you said that makes sense, and then you would have with the replacement of a certain size. So like, for instance, if you put in a tree or a shrub and 13 years later they want it replaced because it dies, you can't necessarily buy that same size.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is the muffler was free, but the labor to install it wasn't. Now, I guess it's not off the record, we're recording it, but I always hated that. I always thought it was unfair because I'm not a car guy. I'm not handy. It's funny, I ended up in the car business, and I'm not handy. I don't know anything about cars. It was just the best business opportunity, and I took it. But I always thought it was unfair to charge somebody $2 for a clamp because you had to cut it off to get their free muffler back on. And so I never did it by the book where you're supposed to charge for that. I just told them they didn't know anything and sent them on their way. If they really didn't need much else, I would just give them the clamps and the extras. But we were at least taught, and what most people did was you charge for the labor to install it. And in your case, I think that's more than fair. Here's your free evergreen tree, but it's $75 to install it, to put it in.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times you model that financially, that the cost of the labor covers the tree and the cost of your person to put it in. So all you're doing is, and hey, the customer gets a great benefit of the bargain. He gets to buy your labor, that's at the ready, buy them on the spot, and pay for 45 minutes of time and a wholesale cost of a bush with no markup. That's a great deal.
Yeah. And it was only one that you replaced, and you made your warranty, a certain percentage that were going to die, and now only one thing has died this year, or maybe next year nothing died.
Yeah, but see, now we're back to who's going to assume what risk. Who's going to assume whether, plants live or die. And, from my perspective, I'm paying you to take care of my yard. And that means keeping the stuff alive.
Right.
So from a perception point of view, sometimes you look at it too, and I know it's hard for you. See, I'm not in your business, so I can think more like a customer. It's tough once you're in a business, even for 5 years, to think like a customer because you think like you, not like a customer. But, so the customer probably has a pretty reasonable perception that this risk should be borne by you because to them, you've got more control over it.
I'm sure you have a yard. If somebody approached you with the idea I just told you, even though I did not install your landscape, what would you think of that idea?
You know what? I will entertain any reasonable idea. Now, to me, you should just sell it like an extended warranty on a car. Those are incredibly profitable, by the way.
Yeah, I bet.
So if you came to me and said, Jim, I actually just had to take out a big blue spruce, and it was so big, we've lived here for 5 years. We moved here 5 years ago. And I've got a nice landscape yard. The house was built in the late 90s, and it had a big blue spruce tree in my side yard, and it basically tipped over. It kind of gets wet there. I think I got a sprinkler system issue, back to your add-on. And the ground always got soggy, and eventually the thing tipped over. And I went and priced another one. I was like, oh, my gosh, that thing was, $350 or something for a comparable tree, and I just didn't replace it. It looks okay, but it looked better with the tree there. Yeah. So if you would have come to me and said, hey, Jim, if you give me X dollars per year, I'll make sure that, I take responsibility for everything in your yard, including if it dies, I'm going to give you another one. I mean, I'd at least entertain it, depending on what it costs and what I value it at, and certainly customer preferences. So if I'm the kind of guy that loves my yard the way that it is and it's kind of expensive, I might pay that. If I'm a cheapskate, I might take a pass.
Well, understood that.
But yeah, it's worth a try. And the thing that I struggle with clients and business owners that I meet is taking some of these risks. And the more out there it is, yet reasonable. The better it is because, one of the best things, to me that's interesting is if you have to stay a customer in order to get the warranty, that's a barrier to exit for the customer. I mean, you're literally erecting a barrier to exit. I like that. It's at least a plus point for the idea. But, one of the great barriers is your competitor's unwillingness to do something. And so I've literally trained myself and hopefully trained my clients that if you've got something where you go, oh, my gosh, my competitors, that's going to be a real pain, the next question is it going to be so much of a pain that your competitors won't do it? Because if that's the case, I want to try. So, the more dumb they think this idea is, the more I like it.
Well, that's all the questions I have. So
I appreciate you sharing some of the fact scenarios with your business. So I'll go ahead and I'll stop the recording here in a minute. And thanks so much for sharing some of the specifics. I hope you got something from the call, and I hope everybody else listening was able to learn. I think that it's one of the things that I've learned about business owners is they learn so much from examples. And so you providing a real world example is appreciated, because I think that business owners are very savvy at taking facts like this, even if I'm in manufacturing computer chips and going, okay, well, I don't necessarily install trees for people, but this is what we do that's similar, and they're able to glean great ideas from other people's fact situations. So thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
All right, well, great to be on the call with everybody, and I hope you have enjoyed the book. So keep up the good work, everybody.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.